All right. So, few things uh, I would like to know. So, how many of you have some familiarity of uh, with R and R Studio? You can just either raise your hand or you know anything is fine, or you can write it in the chat. You can write privately also, or if you don't, uh, so just so not familiar. Okay, some of you are saying, most of you are saying no, either not familiar or you are saying, uh, okay, most of you are saying not familiar. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. No problem. So most of you are saying not familiar. Perfectly fine. So what I'll do, and very few of you are saying you do. Okay. So I would say in a class of 50, maybe 5 or 7 or 8 of you. So we're about 15% saying some familiarity and rest of you are saying not familiar. That's perfectly fine. So today what I'll do, I'll just um, give you a basic intro to the visualization and why should we study visualization uh, in data science. And this is a course you will not find it in typical statistics master's program or computer science master's program, but data science, the visualization turns out to be extremely important. And I'll try to give you a sort of a general introduction, more kind of thing, that why should we study visualization. And at the end, if we have time, I'll try to introduce you to, like, how to install R and R Studio in your local system. And okay, so let's do it for today. So okay. All right. So I actually shared some of the references for visualization on the Moodle and some online links also that are available. These are the basic sort of, grammar of graphics is the book from where many of my, conceptually I'm following that book. And ggplot2 is the one of the R package that we are going to use very regularly. So I'll show you how to install and all those things from the basics, so don't worry about it. And visual display of quantitative information by Edward R. Taft. I don't think it is in the print now or even in the circulation, but this is one book which sort of, I would say, a very old book, but sort of the first attempt, early attempt to make the visualization as a mainstream of the data science activity, when even the concept of data science was not even there. Florence Nightingale, as you know, that she's the first, she's the basically mother of the invention of the nursing profession. But many of you don't, what you don't know, she was also a self-taught statistician, and she is the inventor of what we know today, the polar chart of Florence Nightingale. And I am sure many of you have heard about the pie chart, and the pie chart is basically a special case of polar chart that Florence Nightingale invented. And the story is like this, that if you, let me see if I have the, yeah, I think this is a slightly better reproduction of the same chart. So, um, so this is basically the diagram of causes of mortality in the army in the East. And what it says that if so, this is the where the actually war started. If you see that, you know, April 1954, here you have this where the whole engagement started. The first few months, 3 months, there was not many cases of death or anything, and then the full-blown war started. And what happened is, you can see as the war started, uh, up to 19 March of 1885. So 1855, March of 1855. So this was like going like this. Up to this, it was pretty high, the death, and then suddenly it dropped. So I'll tell you this story. What happened is, these are the red areas where people were died in the direct actions. The black areas where people were died, uh, got wounded and then followed by a death. And these blue areas where people got mildly wounded, but then in the hospital, they eventually succumb to the death. So a major part of the, you know, um, army was dying just because probably they were not nursed well. And seeing this chart, what Nightingale came up with, Florence Nightingale came up with, that there must be a high degree of hygiene needs to be maintained. And this was the chart that was presented to the, English Parliament, and immediately English Parliament, I mean the English British administration allocate a lot of money for the hospitals and maintaining the hygiene and all. And as soon as that started, that 1855 April, you can see the area immediately started. I mean, war was also going down, but the whole area immediately started shrinking. So some criticism, people say that, okay, war was um, dying out in any way. I mean, war was stopping in any way. But if you take the proportion of the people who died in hospital with minor injury and proportion who had died out of action, that proportion become much more manageable. So this was the first, you know, application that we know of, where a data-driven policy was made. Okay. So this is, now here is another example. It's a called Minard's map. He was a geoscientist, and this map what is tells us this Napoleon's campaign to Russia in 1812. Uh, this is also known as Charles Joseph Minard's map. So this is the size of the Napoleon's army when they started. It was about 400,000 strong army, means about 4 lakh in Indian, 4 lakh 40,000 or 4 lakh 20,000. And then as they marched and they meet the skirmishes, the size of the army kind of started reducing. And then they took a lot of strategic thing that 60,000 people went this way and then they moved in this way. And by that time, here the size was 154,000. And when they reached Moscow, that time 400,000 army has come down to 100,000. So but 100,000 strong army is a big, strong army. Probably they should have stayed there, but they decided to march back to Paris. And that was the time the winter sets in. And the time when they started marching back, that was around it was 0 degrees Celsius. And as they were marching through the terrain, you can see the temperature was dropping, and there was a time when it was minus 30 degrees Celsius. And when they finally reached Paris, only 10,000 army was left with Napoleon, and that was the end of the Napoleon. So one wrong decision, and that's the end of the Napoleon. So many say that end of the Napoleon was not because he invented Russia. He invaded Russia, but his 100,000 strong army was decimated by the winter of the Russia. So if he would have stayed in Moscow for the with his 100,000 army, probably he would have still controlling the Russia, and it would have been better off rather than marching through the harsh winter. That killed 90% of his army. So by the way, you can ask me any question anytime. Feel free to ask me any question. Okay. So data science, I always tell people that, I know many of you are very excited and you want to build more models and do some predictions and stuff like that. But, data science is not just building models and prediction. No, it is more than just building models and prediction. It is also about explaining the model. So using them to help people to understand data and make decisions. So visualization is the only successful to the degree that it encodes the information in a manner that our eyes can recognize, our brains can understand. So what I mean by that, basically, you can draw a graph and just, sometimes people draw very fancy graph and really people don't understand and to whom you are showing this, it looks like a very fancy graph because people do use a lot of beautiful colors and stuff like that. But if it cannot um, deliver the analysis that you want to present to the world, then it basically fails, your attempt fails. So visualization is one of the tool to communicate with the audience that you want to say something. It could be an analysis, it could be a policy decision making, anything. So the goal of a visualization is to translate abstract information into visual representations that can be easily and meaningfully decoded by your audience. Just staring at the visualization, they should know that what exactly you want to tell. You don't have to tell anything. You just show the graph, and graph itself should be able to tell you the story. That is the idea. That is the best kind of visualization that you can think of. In my opinion, the two graph that I just showed, one is the polar chart by Florence Nightingale and at the Minard's chart by of Napoleon Smart. Those two are the one of the best of the best visualization in the history of data science or in history of analytics, if we want to say. Now, come to real life data. So I take this real life data and causes of death in United States and in a particular year, I think. And then I think it was 3 4 years back, so it was not much old. And then if you one really weird way of presenting the data is just present the table. I mean, some people are good with the table and numbers. I have seen that. And so just looking at the numbers, you can say heart disease and cancer are the major two causes of death in United States. But if you look into the India or any developing nations in that way, you will see the contagious diseases are much more prevalent causes of death rather than heart disease or cancer. So that is a basic difference, and I think that is because of the public health difference that we have. Like the government or as a society, they've spent a lot of money on maintaining the hygiene, and that resulted the eradication of most of the contagious disease from their society. But here we are not that much concerned about you know the hygiene and all these things. Um, okay, let me just want to, yeah. Hmm. So position data along the common scale and bar. Okay, just a minute, I just so hmm, yeah. So the first thing is the table. If you present the table, then it clearly indicates how the values relate to one another, and it represents the quantities accurately. So that is another reason people like tables. Some people, not all, makes it easy to compare the quantities. Then makes it easy to see the ranked order of the values, such as leading cause of death to the least. Uh, and then makes obvious how people should use information, what they should use to accomplish, and encourage them to do this. So basically, if I just look at the table, I can immediately say that, okay, heart disease and cancer is the place where, people, policymakers should invest more. So this kind of decision immediately is, uh, for if same way, if we do a table, if we can create a table where you can find the causes of death in India and major causes of death in India, most likely the contagious diseases will come on the top, like tuberculosis and all those things. So if that comes on the top, then we have a different set of priorities. We have to set a different set of priorities, like how to eradicate contagious disease and stuff like that. So that means basically you have to maintain a high degree of hygiene, more, nutritious food for everybody, how to ensure that most of the people get the nutritious food so that their immune system will be strong and fight with the, all kind of infections. So these are the, so decision you can make based just looking at the staring at the data. So another way of presenting the data, because there's, you will always find some people who are not good with the numbers, and this is a very interesting finding from me. I always found there are always some people who are not very good with the numbers. If you 500,000 and 600,000, if you give a number to two numbers, it will not make any sense to them. But if you plot that same number, those same numbers on a pie chart, that immediately they say that, okay, all right, this is a lot of data areas are being covered by um, heart disease and cancer, right? So you uh, immediately you decide that, okay, all right, I will spend more time on the heart disease and cancer. Some reason my pencil is not working. Anyway, I'll figure it out. Okay, now it's working. Clearly indicates that, how well does the pie chart satisfy our criteria for effectiveness? Now, clearly indicates it's yes, but does it represent the quantities accurately? It says no. And then if you just makes it easy to compare with the quantities, you can say yes. Makes obvious how people should use the information, probably partially, not, you know, as a full thing. So when you are analyzing analysis, probably you may have to, that means when you are making your decision, you have to look into your table, tabular representation. Also, you have to look into the pie chart and maybe same information looking from a different perspective, a tabular representation and a pie chart representation. And together you can help a consensus building, not for yourself, also for the people who are interested in decision making progress. So another way of doing it, the simple bar chart. You just draw a bar chart and then uh, take a decision. And clearly, when you are saying the cause of death in percentage, and now what happens is that means, with respect to the percentage, everybody is somewhere in the 5 to 10% level, right? Around this. But these two guys, the heart disease and cancer, they are at near about 30. So 60% of all deaths in United States are because of the either heart disease or cancer. And rest of the 40% are spread in all other places. So these are these are the kind of things you can do Now, there's something called graphical excellence, like business excellence or the data excellence. You can call it graphical excellence. You show the data, induce the viewer to think about the substance rather than the methodology, graphic design, technology, or graphic production, or something else. So aesthetic of the graph will also play a role. And when you are doing excellence, other than aesthetic, you have to also be careful about avoid distorting what data have to say. So don't, so and present many numbers in a small space. If you, then it might be a little bit of a difficult thing to understand for the people. Make large data set coherent. If you have, say, for example, I'll tell you one example. Uh, say I have 36, we have 36 states, right? Around 36 and some union territory. All these states every day reporting number of COVID cases. And if I just put them in the data in a table and I show it to you, it will be too many numbers for you guys to just realize that, okay, there are so many numbers and which number is actually good and bad and all those things. But if I put those numbers as a color coded in some scale on a India map, then immediately you know that, okay, red color means too high, maybe white color means not so high, and immediately you know which are the states where a lot of COVID cases are coming, or the lot of fatalities are happening, and where the cases are sort of under control, the pandemic is under control. So making a large data set coherently understanding, that is extremely important for um, any graphical, any graph. So one of the important aspect of a graph is to take a large data set and present it in a coherent way. And plotting data, if you have like district level data, state level data, provincial level data, and present them on the map, makes it much more coherent kind of thing, coherent kind of presentation of the very large data set. Okay. So it helps us to reveal the data at several levels of detail, from a broad overview to fine structure. So serve a reasonably clear purpose: description, exploration, tabulation, and decoration. So these are the different purposes that we can serve using a visualization technique. Be closely integrated with statistical and verbal description of the data set. Now in this graph, oh, sorry about that. Just a minute. Just a minute, guys. I think something goes wrong. Okay. So, So let me explain you this. This is our brain, and if you see this area is our visual cortex, where it helps us to see the things. And if you see this area, this is the area where this helps us to talk, and this is the area where it helps us to uh, understand if somebody is speaking and what are they saying. This is the area which helps us to hear or listen. So, and this is called prefrontal cortex. So, lot of thinking goes. This is really the like this forehead area, and lot of analysis, and we can call it almost like a CPU of the brain, and lot of analysis happens here. So if we don't use visualization and only use math model and only use the uh, complex algebras and stuff like that, then basically we are using only this part of the area. We are not using the entire brain strength. This part of the area we are not even using. And primary sense. So what we need to do is probably we use also the visualization, then the entire brain kind of goes into a you know, in a kind of a synergic adventure, and then we can use the entire brain power. And when I'm using I'm doing a presentation, if I'm just only guys showing you the algebra and equations and the models, then what will happen is I'm not using your graphical or the visual cortex of your brain. But if I'm using some graphs, that means it will basically, you will not only use your analytical area, this area, you will also use this area. And the rest of naturally these two area, front and the back, when you're using, the entire brain has to work. So naturally, it will be much more, you're using the entire brain power to understand what is going on there. So that is where the visualization play a much influential role in telling a story in a data science. So all right. So as I said that the data visualization is effective because it shifts the balance between the perception and cognition to take full advantage of the brain's ability. Visual perception handle the visual cortex located in the rear of the brain is extremely fast and efficient. We see immediately with a little effort. And thinking, that is cognition, which is handled primarily by the cerebral cortex in the front of the brain, this part of the brain. There, all the thinking goes in this area. So, and it's much slower and less efficient. So if I'm showing you a complex equation, in order to understand what that equation is doing, lot of things you have to use, lot of your frontal cortex. So that makes the process very slow. Process of understanding very, very slow. But if I can present equation, I will try in my teaching through some visualization, a graph, then what happens, your rear part of your brain comes into action. It's very fast and it helps you, it provides some additional information to your frontal cortex, and the entire understanding becomes much more, you know, uh, much useful, or, much faster. So traditional modeling and data analysis require conscious thinking for almost all the work, and visualization shifts the balance toward the greater use of visual perception and taking advantage of our powerful eyes whenever possible. So that is the main idea. So let me just go a little ahead. So some guidelines on how to improve human perception. So you position data along a common scale and bars are more effective than circle or square in communicating size. Color is more discernible than shape in scatter plot. So avoid pie chart unless it is showing proportion. If you're showing proportion, you can uh, use pie chart, but if you are not showing proportion, then avoid it. Avoid 3D charts unless, because effectively 3D charts are 3 dimension, but you are showing it in the 2 dimension. So you will never get the correct perception through a 3D charts. Um, Sunburst visualization is more effective for hierarchical plot. I will talk about it. Use small multiples, even the animation looks cool, it is less effective for understanding uh, the changing of the data. Um, what makes the visualization important is highlighting the key aspects of the data. And what are the key aspects? What are the most important variables? What is their relative importance, and what are the changes and trends? So if the always focus on these three aspects, and that typically the, helps you to to go through what is you need and what you need to do. So this is an interesting graph. So I don't know what. Huh, I don't know what is happening here. Let me just use my other thing so that I'll just use my laptop. I think that will be easier for me. This is an interesting graph that we were. Um, so this graph is available. It is also known as Angstrom's data set. It's actually a simulated data set. And so what happens, and this is an interesting data set in a sense, if you calculate, these has exactly same number of points, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, about 10 points are there, and correlation coefficient of all these three numbers are exactly same. But we can completely see that this is certainly they have a perfect relationship, but there is no relation. And here is they are on the straight line, except one value is here, and all the values are here, and one value is here. And this is so it shows that when just looking at the correlation coefficient, and if you say that, oh, they have a very strong correlation, actually they may not have that kind of strong correlation. So you have, if you plot the data, then you will get, if you see the data, you may find more information than just looking at the one number correlation coefficient between X and Y. So actually not only the correlation coefficient, they have exact same mean. All of them have some exact mean, same exact variance, some exact correlation. Correlation is 0.816, an exact same linear regression line, y equal to 3 plus 5x. So it was simulated from there, but it's a very interesting data set. It was, I'll share the paper from where this data set comes to so popular. It's called Anscombe data set. In fact, that this data set is available in Wikipedia. If you just Google it, like Anscombe dataset, Wikipedia, it will give you the entire story. And I'll share the actual original research paper for where this whole story came out. Visualization with unnecessary junk. That is, I have seen many times. So I want to like a little bit give a alarm here. So the data visualization should be visually appealing, but not at the expense of loading a chart with unnecessary junk. So here is a graph, which is a complete unnecessary, filled with complete unnecessary junk. Can anybody tell me what this graph, where is the graph in this?
The pink curve, sir.
Huh?
The pink curve.
Correct. So this is actually the curve, this pink curve, and rest of the thing is junk, complete junk, right? So this is one of the worst graph that I have ever seen. Three principles of a graphical excellence is give viewer the greatest number of ideas in the shortest time with the least ink in the smallest space. So that is the idea. So there is another graph that I'm going to show you. There is some serious problem in this graph. This was actually from the Fox News in the United States. Can anybody tell me what is the problem with this graph?
The total doesn't add up to 100.
No, this is just the unemployment. It has not to add up to 100 because it's just every month. What is the unemployment rate in percentage? That total
8.6 is above 8.9 and 8.8.
They have plotted a discrete data with a continuous line graph.
The scale is wrong.
no.
Scale is,
The lines are very,
in the
line
end,
graphs can't be used when you have discrete data. So for January, there'll be a certain point, but you can't join those, the dots.
Yeah. Okay, you guys, most of you got it, and I'll just tell you a couple of things. So it's not about discrete or continuous. This is perfectly fine. I agree that these are all discrete and they just joined it. So that is should not be done, but I'm still okay with it. Okay, but serious problem is different. Serious problem is here you can see 9 and here you can see 8.6. They're in the same level. Okay. And now you see 8.8. So 8.8 is lower than 8.6. Okay, that was the real problem. So, so basically they just completely fudged the data. So this is another data set where basically, can you tell me these are the exact same data? No, nothing wrong. But
Sir, it's portraying the
why
effect.
why
say it again.
Sir, it's portraying the effect to a very large extent in the first graph, even though the difference between the values is very minimal.
Correct. And how are they doing it?
By starting the y-axis from 3.140 and plotting the third decimal places in.
Correct. Correct. And in the right one?
Least count, least decreasing the least count.
Right. So basically, if you look into the y-axis on the right panel, it is from 0.00 to 3.50, right? So the real changes are very minimal, only at the third decimal places. But that is what exactly they are doing, 3.14% to 3.154%. So real percentage of changes in third decimal places, almost, or second or third decimal places. But if you just plot them, it looks like a really large changes are happening. So you have to be very careful. It's not lying with the data. It's like they're saying that here it was complete lie. Right? It's like completely fudging the data. It's beyond any kind of ethical level. Basically, you're saying 8.6, you're plotting 8.6 above 8.8. So this is like beyond any kind of ethical level. Here, they are not fudging the data. They're plotting exact data. But only for what they're doing, they're playing with the scale. So you are not lying, but you are presenting another perspective just which suits to you and trying to run away with the objective. So that is more often happens actually. That this happens more often than this kind of thing. Now here comes India. So we are not far behind from the Americans. Now tell me, where is the problem? Can anybody tell me where is the problem?
Didn't
So
it
the-
to 100%.
percentage is more than 100%?
Exactly. If you add 61 plus 25 plus 8 plus 4 plus 5 plus 0.6, it will be more than 100%. So it was definitely fudged. So how do we make good visualization? So these are the standard charts typically people try, like line chart, bar chart, scatter plot, and so we will do all those things. And one reason I prefer to use these charts more often, because these are the things which people are get familiar, even sometimes high school or in the colleges. So they are nowadays, when these things are done in the high schools in class 9, 10, 11, 12. So people are familiar with all these things. So their brain is somewhat trained with how to see these charts. Nowadays, there are a lot of fancy charts are coming up. So when you are presenting a fancy chart, you have to also train people how to see those charts. But if you are presenting a basic line charts, bar charts, they're already being trained from their high school days. So you have less things to worry about. So that is one of the reason I do the things. Sometimes you have to use your common sense. So basically, this is a chart which was published in the newspaper, where this is the London stock price, this is the New York stock price or New York Stock Exchange, and this was the solar radiation. They were plotting a same graph, and they were compared and they said that solar radiation has something to do with the stock exchange. Now, of course, that doesn't make any sense. These are like, sudden, completely random behavior. Has nothing to do with, they don't have any correlation. Of course, that was revealed later. They have no correlation. But in order to come up with something just to woo people, you have to, before wooing people, I think you have to use your common sense. There is inside your brain, you should have some kind of common sense barometer, which will say, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. We shouldn't do that. So just because it sounds or looks funny or looks interesting, people will say, interesting. Don't do that. I mean, you have to be very careful. Data on maps on London cholera, 1854. In London, a huge big cholera broke out happens, and how people figure out one of the early investigation, there were a lot of many theories at that time. Initially, they thought the infection was going through air. It was an airborne disease. Many people thought it was some other theories came up, like bad spirit and stuff like that. But what happened that there were a lot of cases they were seeing in the Broad Street. In the Broad Street, there was a particular I think water pump. I think there was a cross. You can see this cross is a water pump from where everybody was getting their water, and this was getting got infected with some sewage water or something that has happened, and that resulted the outbreak of cholera in this entire zone. And if you look into you see the Golden Square, which is actually a pub kind of thing, and in the pub, and they were getting water from this thing. So the street next to the Broad Street, there were not many cases. There were cases, but not many cases. The one reason was this water pump was probably not that infected, and most of the people in the Greener Street, I think Reva Street, I don't know, they were getting their water from this pump. And in the pump, typically they do process the water first, and then they use it for brewing beer. So naturally, they were not getting infected. So just where the infected people are and plotting them on the map will tell you something is wrong in this area compared to these areas. So that's how many, and that is one of the early applications of data and identifying the clusters of problems or area of concern. This is another interesting thing, like early way of seeing that how seahorse actually swim through vertically, a starfish move on vertically, or a gecko walk on the wall. So it's like time-space presentation, space-time presentation. Nowadays, you can have enough computational facility to simulate or show on animation. And we'll do animation at the end of this course. I'll show you how to do animation, how to create animated graph. I'll show that, all those things. So time series, I'm just, this is the life cycle of a Japanese beetle that was presented in one of the old presentation, and then cigarette consumption and lung cancer over different countries and the developed nations. And two variable. One is the rage and the fear and how a particular dog will behave. What kind of face means what, basically. So this is an interesting plot of dose response trial. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 seedlings after growing for one season in sand containing different amount of calcium. So calcium 0, 50, 100, 300, 600, and 900. And you can see that somewhere in the 100 and 300, the optimal growth was found. If you have less calcium, that is not good. If you have too much of a calcium, that is also not good. Somewhere between 100 and 300, the response to the calcium of the seedling is the best. So one thing I would like to tell you that graphical excellence is nearly always multivariate. If you look into the Maynard's graph, it was talking about the size of Napoleon's army on during the invasion of Russia, then the retreat, the temperature, and all those things are there, and the location on the map of the Europe. So lat, long, so at least 6 variables are there in this entire graph. Now, presenting multivariate information in a 2-dimension space, effectively this is a 2-dimension space, is very difficult. But what you have to do, what you have is the time, ink that you are, and the space. This is your real estate. In that real estate, you have to present your case in such a way, minimal time, your audience would get the idea. Okay, this is my idea. And that is the main challenge of visualization. And that is what we will try to learn in this course. Okay. All right. I think that's all I have to say. Any question? Any question, thought, any ideas? It's now open for all. No question? Then should I ask you a question? How many of you are from BTech BE background? Just raise your hand. One, two, three. Okay. All right. So let me see this time. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so about 12 of you are from BTech BE background. How many of you are from math background? Those of you have, yeah, just raise your hand. Those of you are from math background. I'm just want to get a sense the mix of the class.
Sir, I am MSc second year student from computer science and I wish to take this course.
It's okay. I mean, where do you feel you belong? Do you belong in math? Do you belong in computer science?
I just completed my BSc in CMA.
Fine, math. All right. So about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So about 25 of you are from math. And how many of you are from stat? How many of you are from stat background? All right. All right, about 20 of you are from stat backgrounds. Okay. So little bit more math, little bit somewhere then stat, and then we take B computer science. Fine, perfectly fine.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, like in Moodle, I'm not able to see that evaluation criteria and
I have
all
not.
those things.
I have not announced it. I'll do announce it in a day or two. I'm just actually this is the first time we are doing a full visualization course. It used to be part of RDBMS SQL course. It was one. It was basically one course, RDBMS SQL and visualization, and then recent evaluation of the course by Board of Studies recommended that we should have a separate visualization course. So this is the first time we are doing. I'm still thinking and chatting with my colleagues that how to do the evaluation. In a day or two, I will announce it. I'll put it in the Moodle announcement.
Sir, so this course will go till December or November?
What?
This course will go till, means it's 2 months
Yes,
course or 4 months?
No. It will be a 4-month course.
Okay.
Normal 4-credit course, what happens is people meet twice a week, right? And you have similar kind of, naturally you have a lot more assignments and all these things. We will meet here only once a week. So of course, I will keep in mind that we will have less amount of assignment to do, but we will have assignments. And one reason I am doing it over 4 months, but meeting more regularly once a week is that gives people time to, understand and grapple. I mean, coherently understand the ideas of the course and do the assignment carefully and due diligently. So that's our idea. That was also the feedback from the students from the previous batches, that instead of do the 2-credit course in 2 months, do the 2-credit course over the 4 months, but instead of meeting twice a week, meet once. It gives the students more time to think and do the assignments carefully.
So will we be doing assignments in Python or R?
R. In this one, I will do focus on R. Okay. I mean, if you want to go ahead and do with Python, fine. But I will mainly focus on R in this case. In this one. Okay.
So it means we are allowed to submit in Python.
Say it again.
Does it mean that we are allowed to send in Python?
You are allowed to do it in Python. I have no problem if you do it in Python.
Okay.
But for example, at the end, there will be some assignments using develop analytics dashboard and stuff like that. You have to be your own in case you get stuck. You have to figure out the things by your own. I'm not very good. I mean, I am more familiar with scikit-learn and NumPy, SciPy, those kind of packages. I'm not yet familiar with the visualization packages of Python. So I don't know how much I will be able to help you out. So that is my concern. Okay.
Sir, I had 2 questions. So first thing is like, would the objective of the course be like, more like EDA perspective, like, making
Yes.
dashboards, those kinds of things?
Exploratory data analysis, of course, exploratory data analysis, and develop, of course, finally at the end, you should be able to develop your dashboard and how to come up with data story, how to investigate, given a data, how to investigate a data and come up with a story with the visualization. So this is the overall goal of this course, and get yourself familiar with some of the existing packages. So, and also at the end, I will try to do some Tableau, because again, we did speak to people in industry, and that was one of the recommendation from the industry. So we'll do something with the Tableau. So, all right. What I will do now, just to show you few that how to install R. You could just go to Google. The first thing you have to do, install two things: R, first R, and then R Studio. Okay.
So we just did that in the
Yeah,
previous class.
Yes, we
exactly.
already installed.
Most of
Not
us have
all of-
already installed it because we have R and R probability and statistics with our
Okay.
course.
All of you have done that?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Then you don't have to, then I don't have to explain it. That's good. So if you have done installing R and R Studio, then perfectly fine. And then you just install one package called ggplot2 that I'll just write it in the chat box. Plot2. So if you just write this thing, install dot packages within quote unquote ggplot2, in your console, that will just install the package with dependency, all the dependencies that requires. Okay. Anything else you guys want to discuss? Anybody have any other questions regarding the course? We will